What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and also, most importantly, please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media shadow banning and censorship. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we have to once again speak about the women of The View. And at this point in time, man, seriously, they need to just have The View switch stations and go over to MSNBC. You all know how I feel about MSNBC, which is the parody news network. That is what MSNBC is, or MSDNC. That's not a real news station. They don't give real news information. It's a parody news network. And at this stage in the game, man, it's very clear and obvious that as it pertains to The View being a television show, it's the equivalent now at this point to Saturday Night Live, right? Some of the stuff and the takes that they give are so ridiculous and so outlandish. Their inability to be objective at all is just completely ridiculous, the rhetoric that comes out of this show. And that's why I say it should be placed on MSDNC, the parody news network, and off of ABC. The View actually gives ABC a worse rep than what they already have. So now, if you don't know what's going on, which I'm sure many of you all do, Hunter Biden was recently pardoned for his felonies by his father, his daddy, the president of the United States, Joe Biden. Yes, a convicted felon, convicted by the federal government. He was pardoned by his father who repeatedly stated that he would not pardon Hunter Biden. His professional liar, press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, multiple times over swore up and down that Joe Biden would never pardon Hunter Biden. Well, as we all know, he did. And what I found interesting about the pardon is not that it happened, because me, just like I'm sure many of you all did, you figured that this would happen. I was surprised about the reaction, though, and how many within the DNC are actually speaking out against the pardon because of how it makes the DNC look, especially coming off of a bloodbath of a victory that came from Donald Trump against Kamala Harris in this 2024 election, right? But we can always count on those within the DNC media, especially on The View, to put the cape on for Joe Biden. We can always expect them to make excuses for Biden. And that's what we're going to see here. Let's let the excuses fly from Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Holston. Let's jump into this here.
Two things, because I respect it as a parent. I understand why he would do it. Yeah. But I wonder to understand why lie about it for so long.
I would stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why repeatedly say you're not going to and you do? And secondarily, for the part of this country, half of it that doesn't support Biden, doesn't know him personally, doesn't get to have phone calls, and they're just looking at a system that seems like it only benefits the people who are in power.
I'm going to say,
what precedent does that set?
Well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes, because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it. So I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with.
Oh my God. Did she really try to somehow twist this and spin this and put this on Donald Trump? They will find a way to blame. You know, let's just be honest, right? Donald Trump forced Joe Biden's hand. Everything is Trump's fault. It was Trump. Trump is the reason that Hunter Biden got pardoned, right? Let's just cut to it. Some way, somehow, Trump forced Biden's hand and made him pardon Hunter, so that he can then go forward and pardon January 6ers and pressure those within New York and Atlanta to drop his case, and so that he can get pardoned and have his record expunged in New York. This was all an elaborate plan by Donald Trump in order to clear his name and the name of the January 6ers. That's if you let The View tell it. That's if you let The View tell it. By hook or by crook, we're going to blame Donald Trump for something. Now, let's get into what Sunny Austin had to say, or Holston or Houston, however you say her last name.
The only reason that Hunter Biden was gone after and charged, indicted, and found guilty was because his name wasn't Joe Smith, it was Hunter Biden. And that's the truth of it. You've got Eric Holder saying it, you've got former prosecutors like myself saying it. So,
Why
you know,
didn't he admit it
Well, wait.
I think one of the reasons
here.
why he didn't admit it earlier was because he didn't know that the felon in chief would become the next president.
Oh, we didn't know. He didn't admit it earlier because he didn't know the felon in chief would become the next president. But that leads perfectly and segues perfectly into what Scott Jennings has to say. And what he's going to say just really encompasses what many of us feel and think, especially myself. Moving forward, I don't want to hear anything else about Donald Trump being a felon. I don't want to hear anything else about 34, 33 counts of falsifying documents and yada, yada, yada. I don't want to hear anything about January 6ers. I don't want to hear anything about anything when you have a sitting president who is the liar in chief, who multiple times over, him directly and at least about 5 to 6 times through Karine Jean-Pierre, said over and over and over again that they wouldn't pardon Hunter, just for them to turn around and do it, despite the fact that his crimes were actually real and just. It was not political persecution. It was not lawfare. Hunter Biden facing the judge and being found guilty on multiple federal gun charges, and I believe it was $1.4 million in tax evasion, that wasn't going to make or break anything concerning this year's election. Biden would have lost regardless, whether he switched with Harris or not. The same bloodbath that occurred with Kamala Harris is the same bloodbath that was going to occur with Biden. This had nothing to do with nothing. It really didn't. And from this point moving forward, I just don't want to hear anything about how much of a threat and how Trump is going to weaponize the legal system and yada, yada, yada. I just don't want to hear it anymore. So let's get into this last clip here by Scott Jennings on CNN.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it, and that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar, you can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just about when it all started. He's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
And once again, in closing, just to piggyback off what Jennings is stating, for those of you who don't know, it wasn't just that Biden pardoned Hunter from the crimes that he was found guilty of and that he pled guilty to, but he also protected him within a 10-year window from, I believe it was January 1st of 2014 to December 1st of 2024. It's a 10-year window that this pardon applies to, so where he cannot get brought up on future charges versus the United States specifically, okay? He cannot be brought up on any future charges. So whatever investigations that were going to come down by the Trump administration as he attempts to crack down on government corruption, it doesn't mean that Hunter Biden and Joe won't be exposed. But what this does mean by Joe Biden's actions is that Hunter Biden will never be held accountable for the corruption that he may have engaged in. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms. Like the video on your way out. And once again, please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.